Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And we are joined here once again by life coach Mike Zinn. Got to welcome you back to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jill. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So please say hello. Obviously, we have a new show in store for today, but let's talk a little about you as a life coach. Obviously, that's what you do, and you help so many people in so many different ways. So if you can give us a little introduction as to who you are to start, I think that'd be fantastic.
Sure. So life coaching by Mike Zinn is my business, and we work with a wide range of clients. We do one-on-one kind of what I call goal setting based life coaching. We work with entrepreneurs who are looking for some direction. We work with companies with leadership skills, leadership development. My wife and I have an engaged couples course for pre-marriage preparation, mentoring. I've got some of the same people that aren't young anymore, but were young when I hired them at some companies that I were working with, who I still mentor, which is a great blessing to have that. So we have a wide range and deal with a lot of different folks across the country.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and your website so people can get to know you.
Absolutely. www.lifecoaching by Mike Zinn.
Perfect. And for today's topic, do we have an area of focus that you kind of wanted to dive into for our listeners?
Had a couple, but one is been kind of an interesting phenomenon. As you're aware, Jill, is in most of the parts of the country, young couples haven't been able to get married. And if because churches were either not open at all, they of course could get married if they wanted to do a justice of the peace. But people who wanted to do the traditional church wedding, they just kept having to push their dates off. And so I'm seeing that opening up again now, especially out here in California, where things had been pretty tightly closed down. Maybe not too dissimilar from you folks in New York, but I'm seeing that open up some. And it maybe isn't going to be like tomorrow, but it's going to be where people can say, okay, now we can set a date 6 months from now and go ahead and get married. And so we're seeing already some interest in people wanting to take in what we call our engaged couples course. Ours is called Positive Futures Engaged Couples Marriage and Planning Preparation. And so that's comforting to them. It's comforting to us that if they want to take a course, that we can be there to help them. And we all know the challenges of marriage for everybody. At least unfortunately, about 41% of all marriages fail. Wow. But the good news is statistically, some of the things that I'm seeing show that 80% of couples who do some sort of pre-marriage counseling usually stay together. And so that's why we really encourage our course. And we cover a lot of different areas. We cover all the way back to the history of marriage. We cover understanding family backgrounds, building a solid foundation for marriage, building your marriage brand, which is kind of a brand building is kind of a buzzword now or buzz term, but we use that in the marriage context. Communication skills, goal setting, finances and money management, serious threats to marriage, sexual empowerment, children, and managing time. And we do that in person, not so much in person lately, but in person or Zoom or phone. And it's usually 6 one-hour courses, or some people like to do 2 hours at a time and do it in 3 hours. Sometimes we do it in groups. Sometimes we do it in just the one couple. So we're excited that that's getting ready to maybe open up again, and that people are seeking out those kind of coaching and training sessions in their engaged couples preparation.
Now that's above and beyond, right? Because it's good. I've never, until I met you, knew of anyone who actually did this, except through the church, right? Sometimes they offer the pre-caner in a sense, but this is more intense, more detailed, and focuses even, I know you'll do the historical background in a sense of marriage, what it means, but it you're really talking real life, day in, day out things that maybe the church wouldn't cover.
Exactly.
Time management
Exactly.
being one of them, and how do you make time for communication between each other? Now,
Absolutely.
since you and your wife, relationship experts, I mean, can I ask you a question? What do you see as, you mentioned the unfortunate statistics before about marriages that don't go through a pre-counseling certification like yourself that you offer, but what is the one thing that you see time and time again, always the key problem or problems?
It really is communication, and it's communication across all of those topics that we discussed. And it seems so simple, but when we are in a classroom setting, and we've taught what you, I think, on the East Coast called pre-Cana classes,
Yeah.
different day, but we've taught those, and some of the stuff we've taken directly from that. But what we do when there are groups of people and they're going through an exercise, we force the couple, shouldn't say force, but it is kind of forcing, to sit directly across from each other, knee to knee, look in each other's eyes, sense facial expressions, body movements, the same thing I do if I'm coaching a client face to face. And it's amazing the number of times that people aren't good at communicating, yet they're getting ready to get married. And so you can imagine that maybe financial issues haven't been discussed, maybe children, or who's going to take care of children, or any of those kind of things. You can just kind of sense that they haven't been discussed. And so we put them in situations where they break off for 10, 15 minutes on a topic and discuss it, and then maybe come back to a small group or come back to a big group and we talk about it. So communication, gosh, just about everything in life, right, solves a lot of problems, or at least makes people aware that a problem could exist.
Wonderful. Well, it's great that that's coming back. And life coaching by MikeZinn.com. Obviously, you can find out more information there. And Zinn is ZINN.com. So besides the marriage and relationship coaching, what else do you focus on with your practice?
Just, a number of different things. I was telling this story to somebody yesterday. Is I have a client that I'm working with on really career changes. Going from one career to another career, not happy with what they're particularly doing. And it isn't, excuse me, so easy just to say, oh yes, we can do that. You start getting into the backstory and you find that there's some issues maybe that are keeping that person from taking that step. So with this particular person, he just said, I've got a lot of stuff, in their backstory, in their life. And I said, well, I was kind of half joking, but more serious. I said, we need to unpack that stuff. And so I used the analogy with him. I said, you've gone to an airport, right? And you watch somebody go up and they're getting ready to check their luggage in, and the person weighs it and finds that it is way overweight, right? And so you go through that embarrassing thing of opening up your luggage in front of everybody and kind of quote unquote unpacking your stuff. What do you need to, what's essential and what isn't? And I told him, I said, let's use that in your life. Let's go back through those things that you can't seem to let go, and let's unpack those and then figure out some strategies to get rid of them, put them in your past and go forward. And so we went through a little exercise, and I said, okay, let's start with journaling. Let's try for you to do that every day for 10 minutes and just write down some of those things, get them on paper. Then let's have a goal. If the goal is, I'm going to get rid of that unwanted relationship that didn't work out 20 years ago, let's get that action, let's get it on paper. Let's visualize, as a third step, visualize what your life looks like when you don't have all those burdens and all that stuff that you need to unpack. And lastly, let's put some action steps to it. Can be just tiny action steps, something digestible to start off. Mm-hmm. It's empowering when you can go through and check off those action steps. You feel pretty confident at the end of the day.
Got it. Absolutely. So obviously you're helping people in all sorts of their life. I mean, from within to start, right? And then obviously it goes down hand in hand with communication, with relationships, with even careers. I mean, people need to kind of figure themselves out before they can move to that right career, make that next step, make that, become more of a leader in a sense. So,
absolutely.
So life coaching, because some people also may be confused with what life coaching is compared to seeking mental health from like a counselor. So could you give us the difference there?
Absolutely. Life coaching, you hit on it, Jill. Life coaching is person's life. Now, there may be some things in that backstory that are so involved that I can't help them, and I tell them that. But most of the time, I feel like I can in some respects, and I'm always going to be having them be looking forward.
Yeah.
We don't try to keep people, we're not keeping people in therapy for weeks, months, years. Ours is kind of a 2 to 5 session, hour each program. And we want them, tell me your backstory. Let me learn from it, but then put it away. We're everything that we're going to do from this point forward is all going to be forward thinking. You're going to be accountable. You're going to do the heavy lifting. I'm the conduit that kind of helps weave your life together and hopefully get you on the right track.
I like that word, conduit. That is perfect. Beautifully said. Wow. And yeah, and speaking of looking forward, a lot of us, I think, after this year we've had with the pandemic, really need that. We need to just look ahead and move forward. And it's been a hard year for everyone, but it's caused a lot of problems in so many different ways. And I'm sure you're experiencing, your clients are experiencing the effects of this pandemic. Could you give us a little insight into that and how you're helping them?
Absolutely. I think that, people, at least the ones I'm working with, are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. They're feeling better, whether it's that they're going to get a vaccine or that a school is opening up for their children, or even something simple as, gee, I can go back into my office 2 days a week. I don't have to do every single thing on Zoom, with clients or colleagues. So they're just, that's a mental health thing, and they're just feeling good. Now, maybe it's weather also is improving. There's some funny that happens with people's mindset with weather, but I'm feeling good about the way people are approaching their lives now.
Yeah.
They're approaching it with a lot more confidence. And, I think, I was talking to a client, the same client who was considering a career change. And they said, gosh, I couldn't think about that in 2020.
Yeah.
I had time to think about it, but I kind of felt like I was just trying to get through the day, get my kids through the day, help my spouse get through the day. I didn't have time to kind of think of myself. And now they're kind of saying, okay, I got through this. I would really love to, I'm in sales, but I'd really love to do something else. I'd love to be a teacher. Okay, let's start talking about that. Same thing. Let's goal set, let's visualize, let's set up some action steps and figure out if that's a possibility for you.
Great. And I know on your website, lifecoachingbymikezinn.com, you blog as well. And speaking of the pandemic, you wrote one back the day because baseball season was starting called 3 Strikes and You're Not Out. You got to be positive, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many images do we all have from when we were a kid? Yeah. And maybe we were actually in a baseball game and struck out and went to the end of that dugout and had to just sit there. And, but there's so many, if you look through history, there are so many folks that have had things worse than us for sure, and have risen above it. I use the example of Abraham Lincoln. I'm a big history buff. Oh. Lincoln failed 17 times in pretty significant undertakings in his life. Everything from losing elections to failed businesses, bankruptcies. And then all of a sudden in 1860, he's the president of the United States and kind of rose above all of those failures that he didn't let define him. And went on, gave one of the best speeches in American history with the Gettysburg Address. So no, 3 strikes does not mean you're out. It just means that you have to kind of center yourself again and help with some strategies, get a plan down, and take your swing again.
Absolutely. You got to keep going, right? You got to keep trying.
Absolutely.
And, it's all about life. And in life, sometimes you don't succeed, but you got to keep trying and don't let those hardships affect you, which is, it's hard. I get it. We've all been there. But Mike, can I ask you personally, what have you overcome in your life? What obstacles to make you so wise today in what you do?
Oh my gosh. Prior to doing this, Jill, I was in the athletic footwear and apparel business. And through a number of different reasons, downsizing, new management, companies closing, I went through, I think, 3 layoffs in about 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was like you start to doubt yourself after a while. You understand that there were reasons why that happened, but you start to doubt yourself, and you got to say, okay, what can I do to help my family, support my family while I'm looking for a job, similar to what I had left, which was, a VP level kind of positions in some cases. And when you become a night security guard, for 2 reasons, because you need the days to search for a job, and you need to make some money.
Yeah.
And then you've hit rock bottom, but you also know that you have a path upward, and those are the kind of things you just have to do. So everybody's got their story, and some people are able to rise above it. Some people need help.
Yeah.
I really think everybody needs a coach.
Yeah.
In some way. Everybody. It could be you or I. It could be a professional golfer, who they make their living doing that. They still have coaches. So there's nothing wrong with it. And you can call it a coach, you can call it a advisor, you can call it a mentor, whatever you want to call it. Everybody needs that.
Yeah. You need someone for sure.
You do. Absolutely.
All right, Mike, can you tell everyone how to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. www.lifecoaching by Mike Zinn, or direct line here in California, 714-606-5728.
Perfect. Stand by. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, obviously, we'll talk more with how Mike Zinn can help you and your family and everyone around you make you a better person, because that's what it does. It's a trickle effect. Stand by. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our Ministry Alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAP partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAP partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show here. We are joined once again by Mike Zinn, our life coach here, and expert in helping those getting through relationships, getting through personal issues, and so much more. So, Mike, what else would you like to focus on today as far as your services and how you can help everyone?
Well, I think the whole idea of career change is a fascinating one for a lot of people. And so I maybe talk a little bit more about that, Jill, because I've been working with some clients on that and uncovering kind of their skills. And I tell everybody it isn't as daunting a task as it might have been 15 or 20 years ago. Because some people will say, how do I start? Well, the internet is a great source of information. And I tell them, I said, just start Googling, what you think you might want to do. And then when you find that out and you read literally everything you can almost get your hands on, then start to take some online courses. And there's some great sources of platforms, I should say, for online courses. There's one called that I send people to called Udemy, Udemy, that have everything from soup to nuts in terms of courses for personal improvement or changing career or whatever it might be. And some of them are, very affordable. So, you start to get now coursework in, and then you start to reach out to people and in the industry, and you'd be surprised how many people are willing to help folks who are getting started in a new industry. And maybe there's an opportunity for you to donate your time. Maybe you're working a 40-hour week during the week, but you might have some time on a weekend and that you might be able to shadow somebody or, work for free for a few hours just to see if you like that business. So I tell people, when you do this, whether you like to be called it or not, you're an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur, they work a lot of hours. And so you have to say, okay, I'm going to work a 40-hour week, but I'm also got to put in another 10 hours a week at least, finding my passion. And when I found that passion, learning about that and getting it refined and get yourself to be at that expert level. And then, last but not least, people are scared to death of interviewing.
Yeah.
They say, oh my gosh, I've been in this industry for so many years, and now I got to interview in a new industry. I said, yeah, again, once you've studied it, you'll gain some confidence, then reach out to friends, colleagues, family members, have them interview you,
Yeah.
get comfortable in the process.
Absolutely.
And I think that, people just have to, realize that there's steps to all these changes, and it's not going to come overnight. But if they're really serious about it, and putting in the time, it can happen.
And so how does it work specifically? So to, help with their anxiety of getting started with someone like yourself as a life coach, maybe having weekly Zoom meetings, calls, or how does it work? And usually how long does somebody need your services in a sense to get that little boost of confidence and to kind of, get that charge from within?
Absolutely. First off, I offer every person who is interested a 45-minute free consultation. And I call it kind of kicking the tires, like you're buying a new car. There's got to be a match between the client and the prospective life coach. And you can usually figure that out in 45 minutes.
Okay.
So we just talk, I ask some questions. I tell them, what a life coach does and what a life coach doesn't do. Explain a little bit about our services, and then I ask them to tell me their backstory. Tell me your story. And I just let them talk for 30 minutes, while I take some notes and try to uncover some things. And then we usually wrap that up with, okay, here, if you're interested, here's how it works, and here are the next steps, and here's how I think I might be able to help you. I usually, if I can't help somebody, Jill, in 5 sessions, I haven't done my job. I haven't asked the right questions, or they are not at the point where they really want to get better. So, I don't just keep people on for the purpose of taking their money. Depending on what they're looking for, it's usually 2 or 3 to 5. Usually average is about 3, because I try to make it very focused. And then give them some homework, usually at the end of each session, so they're accountable, and that they're not just getting off the phone or off the Zoom with me and then leave it until the next week when we get together. And usually the meetings are an hour, and they're usually once a week. It usually works out well to give them that time to do a little work on their own and get prepared for the next time that we meet.
And during that time, if they needed you, you're available to take their call, their text, their email. It's
absolutely
part of the service. Absolutely. In a sense, where if they're feeling a little down, a little, unsure of themselves or something they're about to do, they can reach out. That's good.
Yes. No, I actually tell people, I say, if you're a client of mine, you're a client for life. Don't abuse it. Don't try to get me on the phone 3 times a week for an hour, because I can't do it, and it's not fair to other people that I'm working with. But if you've got a question, you want to talk for a few minutes, email, text, call, Zoom, whatever it is, I'm there for you.
Yeah. All right. Good. And as far as your relationship counseling, pre-marriage, I guess, what do I call it? It's counseling, it's coaching.
It's engaged couples marriage preparation. Yes.
Perfect. So when is that going to be starting?
That's all the time. Because in a normal cycle of a year, people are, they're getting married all the time, and they're not shut out of churches or community halls or wherever they were, maybe going to get married or have a reception. So those are ongoing.
Okay, good. They could look at the website now, find out more information, when to join. Perfect. I thought you had to stop for a little while and you're just restarting up again.
Yes, I'm just, we stopped by necessity, but I'm just sensing that it is starting up again, and it can be at any time. And I tell people to do it, well in advance of, their marriage. It doesn't need to be a year, but at least 6 months. It just gives them enough time to go through the coursework, and also enough time for them to do some discussion on their own and really go through. There's homework in that program too, where they should be talking about things in between the sessions.
And Mike, what do you want to leave us with today?
I would just like to.
Just a mindset, anything that would make
I
us.
would just like to go to something that you echoed from me, is that people, you just need to try and keep moving forward. Get appreciably better every day. Could be just a little bit, but try to get better every day at what you're doing and not slip back. And there's resources, whether it's our resource or other online resources or family members, mentors. Maybe it's somebody you didn't even know was a mentor, but you used to work with, and they would be probably more than happy to help you. Reach out to people. If there's anything that 2020 taught me, it's that you need to reach out to people in a very personable way. And to me, that's a phone call.
Yeah, not just social media, checking in and liking something or messaging them on a app that they don't even see or pay attention to.
Absolutely.
Personal one-on-one contact. I agree with you, Mike. Great. And in closing today, give us your website, any forms of contact, social media, phone number, email.
Sure. www.lifecoaching by Mike Zinn. Facebook. We do Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. All the blogs have been turned into YouTube posts. Direct call 714-606-5728, and can email through the website.
And what is the Mrs. name?
I'm sorry?
What is the Mrs. name? Your wife?
My wife is Terry.
Terry.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right.
She helps with the engaged couples classes.
Good. Well, maybe we can meet her one time. Tell Terry I said hello. And
I will.
Happy to hear what you're all doing to help people out there, and especially during this time and this year in particular. If anyone needs a life coach, it's now. So call Mike, reach out to him and Terry, and we really appreciate you being here. Thanks again.
Okay. Thank you, Jill.
All right. You have a great day. And of course, everyone else, stay tuned. More of the show's coming right up after the break.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.